Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Metal Wolf Chaos XD, the remastered version of a Japanese Xbox exclusive cult classic. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. Metal Wolf Chaos originally released on the Xbox in Japan in 2004 from developer From Software, better known these days for titles like Dark Souls and Bloodborne. Fast forward 15 years later, and we now have this remastered version courtesy of Devolver Digital. So the title was originally available only in Japan for the Xbox, and now we have it available internationally, and that's great. The title is a third-person shooter, so it's a little bit different than my usual fare for Shoot 'em Up Saturdays, but I liked it enough that I thought it kind of counted. So, what kind of game do we have here? Let's dive in and find out. So we do have a couple options here at the main menu. There's the options, which on the PlayStation 4 version, which is the one I'm playing, is fairly bare bones. There's a leaderboard where you can compare yourself against scores from around the world, and of course the new game and load game. There are 3 save slots available. When you start a new game, you do override that particular save slot, and we dive right into the story. So the basic story of Metal Wolf Chaos is this kind of overall like grand hero taking back America from these insurgents who when used a military coup to go and take over the country, and these evil forces are led by none other than the vice president. So who do we play as? We play as the president of the United States of America, Michael Wilson, and he's going to take back the United States in this awesome special ops mech suit, which is later referred to as Metal Wolf. So the game is a typical third-person shooter in the way that it controls. One stick handles our movement, the other handles our camera. So we are equipped with weapons, you can equip weapons rather, in both hands. And from the start of the game, we start out with 5 weapons total. So 2 weapons in the left, 2 in the right, and also we have 1 two-handed weapon. So the game itself is chock full of weapons. There's over 100 total in the game. The way that we swap between them is admittedly a little bit on the awkward side. So right off the bat, we start out with a pistol, an assault rifle, a bazooka, a sniper cannon. You know, like just the things you need to go and like take back America. So in this particular stage, the White House, we're trying to escape the White House and this coup so that we can fight on to free the United States. So what do we have here as far as abilities for Metal Wolf? So in addition to all the various weapons that we can equip, and the way that we equip those is kind of interesting, I'll get back to that in just a second, we have the ability to dash around, jump, and if you happen to be in the air, you can go and do an air stomp. It's also possible to dash and stay in the air for a little bit. Real quick, talking about the HUD, so in the bottom left and the bottom right, we go and see the current weapons we have equipped in each hand. The top left has our mini-map. It's possible to go and zoom in on the mini-map, and in the top right, we have our health data. So the burst meter there, which it happens to go and be our yellow meter, allows us to dash around, and if we happen to be using energy weapons as well, it provides energy for that. So in the case of using our dash, if we dash around long enough, it starts to use our shield, which is the green bar that transfers to red. If we happen to go and also take weapon damage while the green bar is low, or we take enough damage that it runs all the way down, it'll start subtracting those green cubes, which happen to be our shield life. Then there also is the glowing circle, which charges up as we're using or rather as we're destroying the environment, and we can use that to go and activate a blaze attack, which is basically a full powered assault using all of our weapons. And those are the abilities of Metal Wolf. So to go and access and change our weapons, it's a little bit awkward. So with the control scheme that I like the best, you're using the left and right triggers to go and fire your left and right guns, respectively. But you open up your backpack and you use those same buttons to go and swap back and forth. End up with something like the sniper rifle and you end up getting zoomed in. So it can kind of be a little bit awkward because if you open up your backpack by mistake, you're also like trying to swap weapons when you're trying to fire, you're swapping weapons. A little bit confusing. So this is the end of the first stage. As far as objectives are concerned, most of the stages will have you destroying all targets or destroying a boss. In the case of the first stage, we're trying to escape via Air Force One. We get to Air Force One, making sure that Air Force One doesn't take too much damage from the enemies shooting it, and we get this grand and glorious cutscene of Air Force One launching from this hidden runway, and well, not quite clearing it as well as it should, dealing a little bit of damage there to the Lincoln Memorial. So this game is just full of political satire and over-the-top one-liners. Like, you get a lot of that here from this dialogue. We see our enemy here, Richard Hawk, the vice president, laughing at us. And of course, one of the characteristic or lines of from the game, Richard! Classic lines. And that's the first stage. You get summary of how you did. There are a couple collectibles that are in every stage. Energy pods, which we can use to upgrade Metal Wolf, and hostages, which as we rescue will go and provide bonuses to the money and the metal that we receive. So after, or rather before and after you complete missions, there are usually a lot of cutscenes kind of giving you the story. We'll kind of skip past that. And then we get to this map. This is your mission select map, and this is where we'll primarily be choosing all our missions, and there's a lot of replayability in the game itself. So to fully show what we've got here, I'm going to swap to a save file that has everything unlocked. This is what the map looks like when you've unlocked all the stages. There are a total of 14 different stages to complete in the game, and each one has all those collectibles in it, the energy pods and the hostages that you have to go and rescue. And the hostages will affect the economy and the technology ratings of the stage, so like giving you the additional bonuses in the money and the metal. So each stage itself, we'll go and like list the mission title as well as the objective. So for the rest of the gameplay, I'll go and show off San Francisco. San Francisco is interesting as it's one of the only stages that was available in English, and I'll get to that in just a second. So once you select your stage, you're taken to the garage after going through the mission dialogue. Here you can go and equip weapons, and as we can see, we've got the loadout here. You can equip 4 weapons in the left hand and 4 in the right, but of course there are also 2-handed weapons. We can also develop, and in develop, you invest in the different kinds of weapon classes, unlocking more and more weapons, and then once you've unlocked those weapons, you use manufacture to create those weapons. There's a lot of interesting variety there, but of course as you play the game, the latest weapons you've acquired are significantly better than the ones previously, so you wouldn't really go back to them as there's no penalty for equipping better weapons. So the particular loadout I've got right now is one that's meant to go and show off a lot of the variety in the game itself. You've got energy assault rifles, miniguns, or rather machine guns, shotguns, handguns, and even a multi-missile launcher as well. So the other things in the garage that we've got like the mission data, will just give you some breakdowns of the mission stage itself. once again, access to the options. Special, which has the leaderboards, enemy list, background change. So some of the hostages you'll rescue can unlock new tracks, which will allow you to go and change the music. We also have suit select, so you start off with the default suit, but there is this DLC one for the Xenon, and then it's possible to go and unlock additional suits by completing stages in the hardest difficulty, which you unlock after completing the game. So here, we normally just have like start when we start, but after you finish the game, you also have the ability to go and play in Fever and Hell, which just increases the difficulty of the game itself. So San Francisco is an interesting stage because it was available in an English demo that was released back in 2004 via an official Xbox demo disc in an official Xbox magazine. I can't remember offhand which magazine it was, but it was a secret demo on there. If you accessed the demo, then you would get access to this particular stage and be able to go and experience Metal Wolf Chaos before it was released in the US, which at the time it never was, but still, that's like pretty neat. So some of the things that were changed with the updated version of Metal Wolf Chaos. The game is now widescreen and possible to view in a all the way up to 4K, although the gameplay itself is largely unchanged. Also, these cages are where the hostages are located. You have to go and open them with light ammunition weapons, like the pistols, the machine guns, the assault rifles, otherwise you would go and kill the hostages inside. So the game itself goes and basically is still using the low poly models from the original version, but it does have new... Let's go and change to something a little bit more powerful to take out this particular enemy target. It does have the textures redone and can go all the way up resolution wise to 4K, which kind of seems crazy for a title that originally came out on the original Xbox. So it's awesome that we have this title now available in English, and it's kind of surprising in a lot of ways. Obviously, like this game was originally intended for release internationally. The dub is completely in English, and this is the original dub. They did not change that at all. The game itself, the gameplay, everything is really the original gameplay. So if you're looking for the authenticity of that original Xbox experience, it's still all here. But a lot of it could probably just go and be political climate at the time, and really... it doesn't feel like political climate ever goes and gets better, as I don't feel like now's a great time for political climate in the US anyway. But there was also the fact that this was a budget title that was quickly developed. It only took 11 months with a team of 30 people working on it to make Metal Wolf Chaos. But it released in Japan in late 2004, meaning that an English localization would have been in 2005, and in 2005 Microsoft was getting ready to release the Xbox 360, so there was probably thoughts that this title wouldn't have sold very well. That said, like 15 years later, Devolver Digital took the chance to go and bring this one over to the US, and I'm really happy they did. It's one that always was amusing in its just bizarre, extravagant take on the US, going and like playing the president trying to free the United States from the hands of a crazed vice president. It's like so much of it's just it shows this really interesting view of the United States and the way that it's kind of viewed by countries by other countries. And of course, if you're not in the United States, I'm sure you might like have see those kind of feelings as well. It's just neat to go and see the way that your country is viewed by like others in this kind of satire. So there we have it. Metal Wolf Chaos served up for your enjoyment. So minus flavors, there are a few. The game itself is really typical of the third-person mecha genre. So while the action is decent, one problem I have with this genre is that the stages can get kind of tedious. They'll drag on and start to feel samey. Not necessarily what you want in a game that you happen to go and be playing. Let's go and try out the multi-missile launcher. So this one requires both hands to use, but man, it's like fun to just go and like release a barrage of weapons. Speaking of weapons, that's another minus flavor I have. So despite the fact that there are over 100 different weapons in the game, there are no melee weapons. And that's kind of surprising, because in so many mech games, melee combat is an important part of piloting your mech. So to not have that present here is just maybe a little disappointing, in my opinion. But plus flavors, I just love the story and the over-the-top like voice acting that's going with it. It really goes and helps put together just this beautiful package that's bizarre and, well, fun to experience, if nothing else. And then getting a classic Xbox title that was exclusive to a region that is not one that you might be your home region, like released internationally 15 years later, it's just awesome. Like definitely like huge kudos and thank you to Devolver Digital for taking the chance to release Metal Wolf Chaos to a wider audience. So if you like third-person mech titles like From Software's more known series Armored Core, or if you are interested in more bizarre titles, then this one might be worth checking out. It definitely goes and has its flaws, but it's still an interesting, fun game that is enjoyable, in my opinion, to go and play through, largely just because of how over the top everything is. Being the president of the United States who is believing in his own justice and is making the impossible possible because he is the president of the great United States of America. It really is just like so over the top. Alright, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.